Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my guys, Mo Nawara in the Midwest. And we've got Nate Weitzer still out there in New Orleans. And we are looking at our player props to finish this regular season for you guys in week 18 of the NFL. As always, we're bringing you a couple of rushing props, passing props, and receiving props. Continue to follow along with us. We are going to be continuing on. We'll see what our playoff schedule looks like, but I have a feeling we will be bringing you plenty of player props as well during this postseason. Also want you to head to TheLines.com. That's where Nate and Mo and gang put all this stuff up in written form for you guys and some more. Also have our odds finder tool on there. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice back across all these U.S. sports books offering you guys NFL bets this season. Let's go ahead and just get right into our first passing prop per usual. Nate, kick us off with a guy who had a monster week last week.
Yeah, we're mostly picking from Saturday games here because the props are very slow to come up. We don't know who's going to be playing hard on Sunday. So disclaimer if you're seeing this late. But yeah, Jarrett Stidham on the 3:30 game Saturday against Kansas City. I see his passing prop at 235 at FanDuel, whereas the rest of the market has it at 240. Maybe you can grab that early. I think he goes over it either way. I mean, not that he's going to replicate the 365, 3-touchdown he had in his debut, but the dude can obviously play, and it's a great situation with Devontae Adams, who in my opinion is the best route runner in the league, as your primary target, and you got plenty of other weapons there. And the Raiders, I mean, they've really tipped their hand by benching Carr, is that they're playing contract incentives. They're already thinking about the offseason. And that means not feeding Josh Jacobs like a monster anymore. He's at 16 carries the last two games. They had a pretty even split in terms of run-pass balance last week, but they're expected to be playing from behind, of course, against the Chiefs. You got Mahomes with a prop of 3-23, so I think there will be plenty of volume here. And on the road, the Chiefs allowing a healthy 242 through the air. Some of that skewed because their last road game was against Houston. But every other team, the previous five, went well over this total, including some of the weaker passing offenses. You know, San Francisco, Denver in there, Chargers when they were still really banged up in the receiving core. So I think the Raiders will be throwing plenty here because that's their really only incentive is to see what they have in Stidham as they plan to move on from Carr.
I'm skeptical of this one. I'm skeptical of Stidham. I mean, if he plays like he did last week, then the Raiders are going to cover this number very easily, and he will definitely go over. This is for sure. That being said, when you say he can play, I don't know. He was atrocious every time he played before this. So I just need to see it for more than one game before I can believe in it. But it's certainly a good situation for him to go over. Like, if he can't go over here, you would have to be pretty worried about him. But yeah, I think the Chiefs might roll here, but you know, we'll see how it goes. Indoors against a mediocre defense, everything's set up for him for sure. High total, no doubt about it.
And maybe some rushing yards for Jared Vick Stidham, who we saw running all over that 49ers defense as well last week. Either way, with that low total, I'm more apt to go over that 235.5 rather than under it necessarily if you do want some action on it. But the second guy we've got here is an under, Mr. Jared Goff. Mo, tell us why you're fading Goff this week.
Yeah, this is one where I do actually like the Lions here. I just think this number is pretty high. It's sitting at the one I picked out was 250.5 passing yards for Jared Goff. There's a 252 if you're down to lay a little bit more juice in this one. I think we talked about it before. I've definitely talked about it on some shows. I don't remember if it was this one, but yeah, big home road splits for Goff this year. Before that last game against Carolina, which that game he kind of went bananas, but they were down huge, like 30 points in that game. So I'm not inclined to give those numbers as much credit. Before that, he was averaging 220 per game on the road. He just hasn't been nearly as good, basically outdoors. And this game, it's going to be cold. It's in Lambeau, 19 degrees. And yeah, I just think both teams are just going to be running the ball quite a bit here because I think both teams are going to be successful running the ball, honestly. You have Green Bay, which is 31st in rush defense DVOA. They've been atrocious against the run all year. The Lions just got absolutely trucked by the Panthers running game, and Green Bay has a really strong rushing offense. So I just expect basically the clock to be moving a lot in this game. And there's some 240s out there on golf at some of the books, so you're seeing some different numbers on this one. I think that's a better number. I'm kind of expecting something between 230 and 240 seems like the right number to me here. 250 seems just a little bit too high.
Yeah, this is what I saw when I was doing the Sunday night breakdown is that, both teams should have a lot of success running the ball. So I would think probably under on both quarterbacks, especially with the weather the way it is. And with Detroit, what if the Seahawks win and all of a sudden they have zero motivation to really play other than, trying to knock the Packers out. But the Packers should be pinning their ears back and coming after Goff, who struggles on the road. Speaking of that Seahawks game, though, that's where I'm going for the rushing prop, and I'm going under on Cam Akers, despite the two big games here against the woeful Chargers rush defense and in a ridiculous blowout over Nat. See you later, Hackett. Previous to that, he was basically getting 3.5 yards per carry. His breakout here to start the end of his run here at the end of the season came against Seattle, and he's still 1760 at 3.5 yards per carry. That was in at SoFi. Now he's going to be playing at Seattle. And I don't think he gets to 72.5 rushing yards with the Seahawks playing for their playoff lives here. Will be highly motivated. They rank 7th against power run blocking, Al Woods and company. And, you have Baker Mayfield back there. So, why would you really drop more guys into coverage than you need to? There's absolutely nothing to fear about this Rams passing offense. The Rams offensive line, let's not forget, still sucks to a degree. I mean, just ravaged by injuries, 5th fewest RB yards per carry. And that Seattle rush defense has been good the last couple against the Jets and Chiefs, especially, you see against the Jets team, similar situation that you don't have much to fear through the pass game. And they were able to kind of just stack the box, get that win at home, keep the Jets low scoring. And I think we kind of see a similar script for them as they try to get in position for the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a scary one, man. I looked at this one. I was staring at this one. I wanted to click on under so bad. I think it must be a good play since it's so scary. Usually, if you're terrified to click on a bet, it's probably a good bet. So I think this one must be decent. It's just I just looking at his usage recently, they just are force feeding him. And maybe I just have PTSD too from losing a fantasy playoff to Cam Akers in one of those games. He's just getting the ball constantly, and it's just weird because it's I don't really see why. I mean, wouldn't you really want to get a better look at Baker Mayfield, have him throw the ball some more, throw the ball downfield, throw the ball more than 5 yards? They just keep dumping off every play. I think this must be a good play because the number is so high, but I'm definitely scared of this one.
Yeah, honestly, I just love that we're sort of ending the season talking about Cam Akers, who was heavily talked about preseason as well, and probably had a bunch of people taking his over in week 1 and leading into week 2, etc. We saw him get very few carries, but obviously a much different season than everyone thought for this Rams team anyway. So 72.5 feels high for a guy that, like you said, in a situation where Seattle's rush D has been a bunch better over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think you'll feel a little bit better about under on that one as well. Let's take it over to our other rushing prop here, Mo, talking about Jordan Mason, but not his yards or an over under here. Talk about a touchdown prop.
Yeah, not talking about over under because you can't find one right now. In fact, I believe this line is only available at DraftKings. I was digging deep for this one. We got to get a little weird. We were talking about it at the beginning of this show. Markets are a little weird because a lot of uncertainty about playing time this week. Who's going to go? Which teams are going to maybe even pull the plug on starters at halftime or anytime during the game if certain results are going a certain way in some of these other games. So this one, I'm just kind of trying to read the tea leaves on the injury report and just where the Niners are sitting overall, which is they technically could get their 1 seed. It's very unlikely, though, because Philly is huge favorites. And then even if the Niners do have something on the line here, which they should either way, either direction with seeding, I think they know they don't need Christian McCaffrey to win this game as 14-point favorites. And he hasn't practiced this week, so I'm kind of thinking he's not going to play. I think they're going to rest him for the playoffs. That's just my read on the situation right now. When he hasn't participated at all in practice and the Niners are huge favorites. Jordan Mason to score a touchdown is plus 360 on DraftKings. If he is the primary running back, which he would be, I believe if McCaffrey sits, there's absolutely no way plus 360 is going to be a reasonable line here. I know the total is low, but he's going to be something like plus 150 to score, maybe even less than that if he's the primary running back. So against a bad Cardinals rush defense, 21st in EPA per play allowed, 23rd in rush defense DVOA, in a spot where Mason, if he is the primary running back, should have like at least 15 carries, if not 20, basically due to the game script. I think this is a reasonable just like shot to take early before anything is announced as far as being sure that McCaffrey is out.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. We saw him score his first teeter ever last week and hold on to the ball like it was his firstborn child, showing it to the camera like his newborn baby. It was awesome celebration, and the dude's got bursts, man. So like, if you've seen some of his runs this season, you know, even in that touchdown that he scored, bursted right through the secondary line right there and got right into that end zone. So I love that for him in this one. And yeah, I agree that like there's no reason to play McCaffrey other than you just want him to have another touchdown, I suppose. But like, you've got bigger things to play for at this point for the Niners, and you don't need him at all with the amount of weapons you have to win this one. So, Nate, talk to me about Jordan Mason for 2 seconds, and then let me know what you think about a receiving prop.
Are you guys scared of the J.J. Watt retirement narrative and how fired up the Cardinals front seven will be, though?
I am not.
No, I think...
I was wondering if we should fire J.J. Watt to score a touchdown in his last game. Don't think you can find that, but maybe they turn back the clock and try to give him some shine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a little bit of burst for a team that has like nobody out there right now to try to cover 14 points, but... Yeah, I mean, Vikings result will already be in. The Eagles should be rolling. The Niners probably in the second half. No, they don't have to do anything to wrap up that seeding. So I think it makes sense. Yeah. And I'm going back to Saturday night here for the AFC South Championship, if you will. Travis Etienne for 13.5 yards. Again, FanDuel offering a more favorable line than other books right now, which are about 15. Also, for him to get 3 receptions is even money, but I think the yardage is fine. He's getting 10.5 yards per catch in his last 3, mostly set up on some screens. I mean, but he is a pretty versatile route runner and obviously has that chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. And he didn't play that much against Houston. They didn't need him to. He still caught 3 balls for 32. He ran 22 routes against Dallas. He ran 24 routes with a 57% route participation rate in the Jags' previous game. And then before that, of course, he didn't get anything going on the ground against Tennessee. 17 carries for 32 yards, no catch. Because the Jags had positive game script. I'm not really buying that they're going to cover this 6.5 and just put Tennessee away. And I definitely don't think they're going to be able to run the ball because nobody can really run on Tennessee, which is allowing forcing the highest pass play rate on the road, allowing 83% of yardage through the air on the road. So I think the Jags, as an extension of their run game, are going to have to get Etienne the ball in space more, feed him receptions. And Tennessee, because of that approach, they're giving up the 5th most receptions to running backs. So 13.5 yards, 15, whatever, 10.5 as his longest reception. I think all of that is in play here.
Yeah, I mean, I've fired a few ETN receiving overs, and this seems like a reasonable spot for it. Tennessee's very, very strong against the run, but pretty poor against the pass. So I think this is a reasonable play, and I do think this is going to be a close game. I don't think this is going to be Jags running away with it, killing the clock. So this number is lower than actually some of the ones I've bet in the past on ETN. So market seems to be coming down on his receiving because I remember firing closer to like 20 yards here. So this seems pretty good.
Great. Yeah. I mean, Vrabel's going to have something for them, like you said. So I would agree with all that. And the 2.5 receptions at even money right there. Also love the juice that you can get for him to get those three catches. So you were talking a little bit of trash, or at least skepticism at Jared Stidham there, Mo, but you do have an over for his favorite target, you have to imagine, this week, Mr. Darren Waller, 36.5 yards. That's wildly low. What's up with that?
Yeah, I was really shocked to see this number. 36.5. I mean, I would assume that he should be one of the most frequent targets. I mean, yeah, Devontae, obviously, and he got force fed last week, but dude, Waller got his fair share too. 5 targets. He went for 72 last week in his first game with Stidham, and even his other games with Derek Carr since he came back from injury, low volume overall passing in these games, and he still is averaging 59 yards per game overall. So I don't know where this number is coming from. Maybe the market is, like me, skeptical that Stidham can repeat last week. But overall, I think it's a good situation for Waller. I already talked about how it sets up really for Stidham to have some success passing. I'm not saying I don't think he's going to be able to put up any yards. Like, I think, honestly, the number's pretty good. But as far as Waller goes, you know, Kansas City has struggled some against tight ends, bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed, 21st in DVOA allowed, 2 tight ends. And yeah, like Nate said earlier, Raiders should be playing from behind, should be throwing the ball here. He was targeting Waller down the field quite a bit in that game, and that makes sense as far as like that. That's how I felt when I was watching it. And then I'm looking at the stats, and he had 4 targets of 20 plus yards in that game. So I think, you know, you might only need 1 catch, honestly, on this one. But I would be surprised if he didn't go over with like 2 or 3 catches.
Coming off the skepticism on Stidham, I see a little bit here. I mean, when you say he looked awful, was that mostly with the Patriots, who haven't fostered a quarterback since Mr. Brady?
It's definitely possible. Like, he's made some steps in a new organization. Couldn't rule that out for sure.
Plus, he's got some nice flow now, so we got to back the guy, and it's at the fast turf in Vegas. So, I see definitely some points here in a game with a 52 total.
And that is all the time we have for you in our Week 18 NFL props video. Definitely want to continue to follow along. Plenty of NFL content coming for you guys this NFL postseason as well. So until we see you next, happy betting.